Today I will be going over a Leetcode problem which is a medium which covers the topic of array and hash maps and sets. So as you can see, the whole premise of the problem is we are given a input array nums and it has some values. For example, this array has 2, 24, 10, 3, 4, and 5. And essentially what we have to return is we have to return the longest consecutive sequence that this array has. So for example, as you can see, if I were to sort this array, it would look something like 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 10, and 20. And the longest consecutive sequence, meaning uh, a number that comes after, so like 2, 3, 4, 5, these are our longest consecutive sequence. So this array will have a longest consecutive sequence of 4 minus the duplicates. We also have to make sure the edge case in this scenario is that we are not including the duplicates. So the first part of this problem is very simple. We can essentially use a set. We can so what is a set? So set is basically a array, a list that does not allow duplicates in itself. So if we were to create, let's say we created a set called numset, and we would pass in our input array nums, it would get rid of all the duplicates, and our final list for this set would look something like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, and 20. So we have effectively implemented step one, which is we're not including duplicates. So once we have done that, we can create a longest variable, which would be an integer, and initialize it to 0. Why we do that? So we can keep track of the longest sequence of numbers that we've encountered so far, because we would in some edge cases we would also have arrays that would have multiple consecutive sequence. So but we have to make sure that we're returning the longest one. So this is essentially what it does. Now we can run a for loop through our input array nums, and we can put in a if statement. We can say if the number that we're currently at minus 1 not in numset. So what this does is essentially we are at let's say we are at number 2, the first number, and then we say 2 minus 1. If 2 minus 1 not in our numset, then we know that we have encountered the first value, so we can begin counting our longest consecutive sequence. We can and then we initialize length is equals to 1, so we can keep track of our longest consecutive sequence within the input array num. And we can also, and after that we have done that, we can run a while loop, and we can say while n plus length. So essentially what this means is while 2 plus 1 equal 3, if it is in our hash in our num set, then we update our length plus 1. So what this while loop does is basically checks, hey, if does 3 exist in our num set? If it does, then we update length to we essentially say length plus equal 1, which will mean that length is uh, 2 now. So now we run this loop again. We say while 2 plus 2 in our num set. So we say 2 plus 2, which is equal to 4 in our num set. We can check. We say, hey, 4 exists, so we can iterate. We can add plus 1 to our length, which would make our length 3 in this case, and we can just keep doing it again and again. We would do 2 plus 3, which would be 5. It does exist in our hash map. I mean, in our num set, sorry. So we update our length by plus 1. So now it becomes 4. So now we do 2 plus 4 equals 6. So 6 does not, as you can see, does not exist in our num set. So we stop there. And then we as you know, in the beginning I said this is to basically keep track of multiple sequences. We say longest is equals to max of length comma longest. So this basically ensures that we are always returning the longest consecutive sequence. We're not just returning if I were to do something like return length, like if I were to do something like this would not be viable because it would only return the first longest consecutive sequence, which we don't want that. So we essentially create this uh, the longest. So longest is equals to max of longest comma length, and then we can, after that, we can return our longest. So hopefully this explanation was easy to understand.